Well, without further ado, you came here for something special. I just thought I'd set it up and warm it up. I learned this a long time ago. The more you give, the more you get. Literally, the more you give, the more you get exponentially. That means a whole lot more. So what I'd like for you to do is I want you to take into consideration who our speaker is and what she's about to bring to you. I spoke to you about Mr. Anderson. Let me just tell you about Brittany Calloway. Brittany Calloway, like me, was an educator prior to coming into the real estate business. She started off, and she was going to tell probably part of her own story there, but she started off with some really exciting possibilities. She invested heavily in getting started. And right there along the way, the wind blew, the cold wind. I thought, I'm getting a ring back, so I'm pulling it down. Y'all okay? So instead of being defeated, which is acceptable given the challenge and the turn of events that occurred, but it wasn't acceptable to her. And she fought through it and sort of used it to develop a system that she might not have been motivated to do had she not had the setback. A friend of mine, Willie Jolly, said a setback is a setup for a comeback. Right? A setback is a setup for a comeback, but you got to have your head right. And Brittany had her head right. And she decided that she would create a system that would allow her never to run into that situation again. And then she proceeded to say, and I'm going to make it available to everybody else so they don't have to go through that. She's doing something for you today that can save you a whole lot of heartache. And I want you to let her know how much you appreciate her taking time out of her schedule to accommodate you today. I'd like you to stand up for a minute so you can get loose and make sure you got elbow room. The more you give, the more you get. Let her know how much you appreciate her. You might get a little extra. All right, let's welcome no other than the systems queen, Brittany Calloway. Come on down. Yeah, Brittany. And she looks good, too.
Can you guys hear me okay? Wow, we are a packed house today. So, my goodness, thank you guys so much for coming out. I know it was Thanksgiving weekend, and you guys got to chow down on some turkey, hopefully some good food. But I really do appreciate you all coming out today. Hopefully I'm going to make it worth your while. You know I'm going to give it my all and tell you guys everything that I'm doing. I'm a no secrets type of girl, so I give you everything that I've done on this strategy, and you guys feel free to ask any questions as we kind of go along. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. One of the things I have to absolutely say is I was 100% sitting in your shoes 3 years ago. Right, so the only thing that makes me up here is probably just the number of deals that I've done in a very short period of time. But I truthfully was coming to the Real Deal Meetup to get free education. Everybody say free 99. Free 99. Okay. And just truly learning my journey of how I was going to do this real estate business. Right, so I started out as a teacher. I taught in Southeast DC, so straight out of college I was a special education teacher for 2 years. Fast forward, was working with a lot of families that were going through evictions, foreclosures, and said to myself, wow, there's so many people that are just falling through the gaps in the city. And worked with a family where the IRS had actually, by accident, put a lien on a family's property and was going to foreclose, and they had actually paid their taxes. And I said to myself, my goodness, if this is happening, in other places, I wonder how many people this is actually happening to. And people just started referring people to me, saying, hey, can you help me with my housing needs? Can you help me? I'll do the handheld. It's fine. And I said, well, I'm just a teacher. I have no idea how to actually do this real estate business, but I'm happy to, see what I can do to help. And sure enough, fast forward, here I am. Right? I remember sitting, it was actually this time, my very first year of, or my second year of teaching, where I was working with a family, and they were like, hey, there's a big company that's coming to actually, put our house under contract. Would you mind just coming just to look over the paperwork, just to kind of sit in, just to make sure we understand the whole process and we're going to get the best deal?
I'm gonna probably turn that one off.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
And if you have your cell phones, please put it on stun or on mute. What have you?
Haven't heard that one in a while. You guys can hear me? Okay. And from there, it was so crazy because I was sitting with this family, and sure enough, this company was just, giving them the full run. They were getting ready to buy their house cash, putting the house under contract, so they thought. And I just asked some very simple questions like, hey, they're going to have to move. Is it possible for you to be able to pay for their moving costs? And the company was like, okay, yeah, I think we can kind of work those numbers. And I was like, hey, they're actually getting ready to file for bankruptcy, too. Is there any type of programs, anything that we can do to make sure that doesn't have to happen? So, again, they kind of talked, came back, and was like, yeah, I think that there's some paperwork that we can draft up to try and make sure that happens. And sure enough, I had just went to the bathroom. When I was coming out, one of the guys pulled me to the side, and he was like, okay, so what's your wholesale fee going to be? And I was like, what do you think my wholesale fee should be? I didn't even know what that was. But he thought I had actually had the property under contract and I was going to be wholesaling it to him. So I'm Googling it, like, what is wholesale fee? I have no idea. And so I obviously didn't ask for what I should have asked for, and I ended up splitting it with the homeowner anyway. So that's kind of how I fell into it. And then jump forward, said, you know what, I'm going to invest in a mentor, get my education. And so fast forward, 3 years later, I just celebrated my 3 years of being self-employed. So that's exciting. Yeah, it is. Self-employed life is great. You guys can visit me at my office anytime. I'm downtown on F Street, so come on by, bring questions. Yeah. All right, so this is the baby, the bigger project that a lot of people got to see. I have actually closed this, so this is why we are not doing the Real Deal Remix here anymore. Actually got bought out of this deal, which I am actually okay with. Made some good money, opening up 2 smaller ones, which I'm really excited about. So I learned a lot of mistakes. This was a very hard project. I think I just, young and dumb, I'm just going to do it. And sure enough, I had great success with it, did a lot of cool things. I'm just going to, talk about it really briefly, but I'll mention it throughout the day as well. But essentially what this is it's an old building called the Pierce School. Anybody heard of it? It's on Maryland Avenue in Northeast D.C. The owners actually bought it in 2000 for $200,000. Just like, God, if only. And it's currently worth $6.9 million. So it has a 10,000 square foot penthouse at the top, movie theater, pool table, cinema, gym, third largest pool in DC. And then on the bottom, it has 9 actual apartments. And so what I did is I leased the penthouse and did Airbnb, vacation rentals, you name it. And then I also leased 2 of the bottom units, one that was a male room and one that was a female room. One had 12 beds, one had 18 beds. And the idea was to lease and buy the whole building. So I was going to take over the whole building and do this model. I did it as a hostel. Does anybody know what a hostel is? Okay, very cool. Great. So some people who don't, it's just like, it's part of this shared economy that everybody is moving towards, right? This is like, truthfully, if you're not on the shared economy train, and you're not thinking about it, this is where businesses are going. WeWork, co-working spaces, shared economy, how can we now group people together, right? Hostels have been around forever before the concept of the shared economy itself, but it's more prevalent now because more people are using that as a way to pay cheaper prices to actually now go visit cities that they've never been to and travel. So I essentially had live-in staff, a personal chef who helped with some of the catering, a cleaning crew, linen service delivered, the full 9, a full-blown operation. And so crazy because I met with the Silicon Valley guys probably in April of this year, and they just looked at us like, how are you guys even surviving? It made me feel like, oh, crap. Well, we didn't go. It was, I opened this in March of last year. So, it's been a year and some change, and they sat down with us, and they were like, you guys should have went under a long time ago based off our predictions. And they're like, how is that even possible? Because the penthouse itself was $18,000 a month. I know. God help me. And so, so the whole rent for the entire penthouse, in addition to the 2 units, came to about $20,000 a month. Expenses were roughly $2,000 a month. So, I had to make that every month to pay rent. I know, it's crazy. I think what really, I'm very creative. So what really saved us was the summer months, of course, we had no problem, right? It was the winter months when trying to do this strategy, because if you're going to do Airbnb, vacation rentals, it's seasonal, right? You have to realize that if you're targeting, and it depends what your niche is. If you're targeting international travelers, which was my niche, but we're going to talk about all the different niches, it's seasonal, right? So you're really looking at, you might get some people in November, December for holiday time, but the prime season is roughly April to October is where you're going to get your prime time people, even D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So it's not just a D.C. thing. This is Maryland, Virginia, D.C. Properties are hot in this area. D.C. is the 3rd largest travel tourist numbers that they get across the nation. So people are coming in to stay in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. So just want you to not think that it's just these numbers I'm going to put up are just for D.C. And so essentially, right, we had to come up with some more creative ways. So some of the things that I did when it relates to the international niche was I started doing bus tours. Right, so I called up all the companies with bus tours and said, hey, if I bring you a group of 10 or 15 people, what could be my kickback on the tour? So we split the tours 50-50. I also went on H Street and got 25 restaurant partners. So every time my guests came, I gave them a coupon of the different books so they could choose, and they came back and reported which restaurants they went to. Right, so I did that. I also put in an ATM machine so I could get extra money. I know, you. I thought really out the box, and I don't, and it helped us survive. I also threw events at the place. We had like a massive, New Year's Eve event. We did a lot of different events also at the penthouse that made quite a bit of cash. Yep.
The Washington Post and any number of local press are giving real bad coverage to this Airbnb.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that, the politics and what's kind of been going on in legislature, and then kind of what that movement's going to look like and how you can still make quite a lot of bit of money, even with the policies that are still in place. So I'm not going to forget you on that, promise. Yeah? Nope, great questions. All right, and if I can do this all in 3 years, right? There's no excuse, right? No, truthfully, but just saying, like, it's not to boast, not to anything, but truthfully, right? Like, well over 50 deals in 3 years, wholesaling, rehabbing, have my own portfolio, refinancing out 15 single families for myself in Jacksonville, looking to do investing in a hotel. I mean, the possibilities are just endless. So, I just want you guys to, put your minds to it. I know people are looking at me like I have extra sauce. I don't. We have the same 24 hours in a day, right? So what I will go and walk through how I'm managing my time, especially as it relates to these short-term rentals. But what are you doing to manage your time? Because while you guys are out watching Netflix and binging on TV shows, I'm probably at the computer doing work and trying to move my business forward, right? So we'll just, how are you managing your time and yourself? That's all. All right, so I am going to do a giveaway. So if you guys actually take a picture of me throughout, tag it as the Real Deal Meetup, I'm going to give you the blueprint, so you guys will get that as well. Kind of the documents that I had. Oh, you're welcome. I know you guys are not feeling Thanksgiving. I'm trying to be in a thankful, spirit-giving mood. No, it's okay. But so tag me in the hashtag Real Deal Meetup, and I'm going to give away kind of documents I've been using for Airbnb, short-term rentals, as well as what made me my first 6 figures in real estate investing. But if you don't want it, that's okay. I'll keep it. That's fine, too. Alyssa's got me, though. I appreciate you, girl. All right, so really quickly, the short-term rentals. So this is actually one thing I really want you guys to know. So obviously there's different laws with Airbnb, short-term rentals across the nation, right? I've done my research as it relates to what's prevalent for D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Cool? If you guys really want to move into a different market or niche, just ask me afterwards, like what area. If it's Jersey, obviously I'm from Jersey, so I know the laws there, but I'm going to focus today on D.C., Maryland, Virginia. Cool? But if you have another place you're thinking of, feel free to reach out to me. I'll give you all the resources of where you can go to look it up, just to know what the laws are for the state that you're thinking of. Cool? All right. So short term relates to, anything that is typically less than 30 days, right? Pretty much for Maryland, D.C., same thing. We're going to talk through what the kind of maxes are as it relates to having people in your actual short term. But short-term rentals typically are considered someone who is in your property less than 30 days. So why do the short-term rental strategy? As I said, the shared economy is huge, right? I'm going to show even just some statistics of Maryland of how many people this strategy has helped pay mortgages, right? How much this has helped in terms of being able to refinance or be able to get an investment property, right? Because of the income that's being made off this strategy. And if you don't have a property yourself, how you can still do this model, right? We'll talk through that as well. So you don't have to it doesn't have to be, if you do have your own house, great. If you have an investment property, great. But even if you don't have a property, right? I don't have an actual house that I own that I am doing this strategy in. I'm using other people's places, right? So you don't have to actually have a physical space yourself in order to do this. But again, this get paid to share is a real thing and is truly moving through in the shared economy space. So I also, just as a fun tip, the shared economy, even with Airbnb of cars, right? So right now, my Mercedes is listed on DURU, right? Pay for my Mercedes because I rent it out. If I'm traveling, I wasn't even here this whole week. So someone took my car. I know it's hard to, let me put it in your head. Someone came to my house, got my keys, took my car for 7 days, and I got $700 to pay for my Mercedes. And that was just 1 week out the month that pays down my Mercedes, right? This is the shared economy. So same way as it's working with Airbnb and houses, this works for everything. This is with cars. This is with storage space. It was so crazy. And so, storage, right? So I was talking to a really heavy investor who has about 7 storage units across the nation. And self-storage is the easiest way to make money, in my opinion. I mean, it's just low overhead costs, high returns. And I was like, self-storage, I'm in. Then at business school, I saw a prototype app being developed called MakeSpace, which has now raised $25 million. And MakeSpace is now saying, screw self-storage. We will actually download the app. When you want storage to come to you, we will come pack up your stuff. We will store it in somebody else's house. And when you want whatever item in that box, you just request it back. And it's cheaper than public storage. That's the new self-storage model, right? So even me, I'm getting ready to put all this money into a storage unit, which is going to take me almost 2 years to have to build a storage unit, overhead manage, and I'm thinking, this is going to be obsolete. People are millennials, it's going to fade out, and people are going to be using MakeSpace versus the self-storage industry, right? Because they're renting other people's houses to do it. Less overhead costs. So again, just thinking, the shared economy and you get paid to share is a real concept that just needs you all to really grasp in your head, or else you're going to look at short-term rentals who's going to go for it? This isn't for me. But this wave is coming. It's already here. I'm making money off my Mercedes. Y'all need to hop on the train. No, but truthfully, right? So I just want to share with you all the things that I'm doing so you guys can really see it. All right, so just really quickly, some statistics for Maryland. So between June 1st of 2016 and June 30th of 2017, Airbnb collected room and rental and transient taxes that add up to $468,000. That was just alone in Montgomery County, Maryland. Between June of 2016 and June 30th in the DMV alone, the total was $6.787 million. That's for the whole DMV area. you got a lot of great properties and people that are using this strategy across the lines. A typical host in Baltimore will earn anywhere from $2,200 on the low end and $7,500 on the high end monthly, and receives guests about 60 nights out the year on the low end and 150 nights a year on the high end. That's just according to Airbnb. What about the other 35 sites that are out there that I'm also going to show you guys to market your property on? Isn't that crazy? So, let's talk about this too. So hosts are responsible, of course, for paying income taxes if people are booked more than 14 nights a year. I don't know if you picked up on that, so I'm going to repeat that. Yeah.
When you say people are booked for 14, does that mean one tenant or occupant?
Yep.
14 days?
Yep.
So if they all book 10 days, there's no tax?
If they all book 10 days and if it's consecutive days. Yep, so if I book 40 consecutive days, that's over 14 days. If I book 10 days, I stop. I book another 10 days, I stop. Then that's fine. Also, if you have 4 different people that book 10 consecutive days, that's also on the same count. Yep, good to know. So let's just really quickly, I want to say this statement, which is true. If your property is booked less than 14 nights, right, for that person who's staying, so anybody who's coming paying 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights, all the way up to 14, there is no income tax that has to be reported for that. I need you to understand that. That's less than 14 nights, right? So how does that relate when it comes to an actual long-term tenant? We're going to talk about that as well. And then I got these, you can, don't always, I've done my research, but this was actually on Business Insider, as well as Airbnb they post their host income. So if you want to also look at that too, those are the references that I used. All right, so let's look at this really quickly. So short-term versus long-term. Let's think about this. So short-term, right, short-term rentals. We know that there's going to be more flexibility, right? So if you want to if you're using your primary house, just as an example, there's more flexibility because you can pick the dates that you want to actually rent it. If you want to have people over for the holidays, if you want to, you got a big graduation, you want to use it for something else, it's flexible of when you can be there and when not. I have people that do Airbnb throughout the summer months, and then in the winter months, they just shut it down completely because they made so much to cover them for the whole year that they don't even do it anymore for the whole year, the remainder. Right? So if you're making from April to October almost $20,000 in that time span, some people are like, that's good. I'm going to shut it down for the rest there. So you can pick which dates you want to use. Also with short term, less wear and tear, right? People are coming in for very quick amounts. 1 night up to 14 nights, less damage that's going to actually probably take place, right? Especially when we talk about the niches, right? You know who, if it's international travelers, are they going to be in the house all day? Probably not, probably traveling. If it's corporate rentals, probably not, probably working. Right? So there's very few people that come in Airbnb and then just stay the whole day, right? So it's less wear and tear. Yep. I could. I might have to make you dance for it. Not kidding. Yes, in my thankful spirits. Yes, the video recording is actually going to be getting the slides, so we will have that available. You're not going to remember everything I'm talking about. Dollar bill. No, it's okay. Short-term rental. So higher rental income. Why is that, right? Because I just said, right, the seasonal peaks, right? So, yes, higher rental income will come in the summer months, right? On the high end, right, if you have just even a 1,500 square foot house, Maryland, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, on the high end, $3,000 a month. On the high end, right, in your prime seasonal. As it's winter time, yes, it does get a little bit lower because people are with family, they're going, traveling, abroad or, just doing different things for the holidays. That's even on the high end. Also, the tax breaks and deductions. My goodness. We're going to talk about that because in a long-term rental, right, you have your property maintenance and all things that you can deduct, right? But if it's if you're doing short term and you're not having income taxes for the 14 days, you don't have to report that income, right? So it's the same deductions that you would get, right? But you don't have to report that income like you have to do on a rental. So you're actually pocketing and saving more money, right? So we'll talk through that too, but just wanted to kind of put that in your head to start with. I get it though, so with long term, there's a consistency sometimes. If people don't pay on time, then what? All right, not as consistent. Less turnover sometimes, depending on, who's renting your property. If you have to, evict somebody or move somebody out, that may not be as low as a cost, right? So you got to think about that. And long term, this is a pro, right? There's no need to furnish. So you do save money on, the fact that someone's coming in, they're bringing in their furniture, moving out, but you have your own furniture in there. You may have to pay for that furnishings. So that could be, a long-term pro. And then some people say, yep, so I get to charge higher security deposits. Okay, I get you on that argument. But I'm going to show you some calculations when we do it. The long-term versus short-term, and people are making more money when doing short-term rentals than actually renting it out for long-term tenants, depending on the area that you're in. And we're going to talk through these limiting beliefs, I like to call them, right? So people are going to say, oh, well, I don't know if I have money to do short-term. Oh, there's so many things to manage, all this competition. If everybody's doing Airbnb, how am I going to find my niches? Those are all limiting beliefs, right? Because I promise you, we have people here in this room who have started putting on their property less than 2 months ago who are making quite a bit of cash and just started this year. So it is never too late to get in the game. My favorite student, with every other weekend for the whole year. I'm going to book a new reservation with you each time, right? People at hotels book multiple hotels, okay? Right? So I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to stay for 14 days at a time. Right? I'm just going to stay every other weekend. But I may be 32 days out the year. Yep? All right. So, again, IRS, my favorite people. All right. So, again, I just want you to see, what are the most common rental expenses, right? Management fees, your mortgage interest, points, property management fees, rental payments, right? Rental payments, right? Repairs, taxes, utilities, advertising, any cleaning, maintenance, commission, depreciation, etc. But what's great about this, as I said, is you're taking more advantages on a tax bracket base and tax deductions because you are not reporting the income that is coming in under those 14 days. So when you do the math, it actually does even out. So same, because you're doing anything that you can deduct off the Airbnb property, very similar for rentals, except for depreciation if you don't own it. It depends. Some of these are obviously for people who are using their primary residence to do Airbnb versus me. I don't own the property. I'm just coming in to do the actual model itself. So I don't have the responsibility of paying utilities. I don't have the responsibility of doing property maintenance. I'm just collecting the income. English major, goodness gracious. Yeah, go ahead. Great. Yep. We're going to talk. She asked, do I use a realtor to find these short-term rentals? Where do they come about? We're going to talk about that too, the marketing to find them. I got you covered, girl. Anybody else? Yep.
If a tenant stays there longer than 14 days, but they were only scheduled for 13, do you still have to pay the income tax?
Yeah, so he's saying a tenant's there for 13 days, but they end up staying 14. That's really on you to make sure that they are out by day 14. So that's not really ever going to be a tenant making that call. That's you as the property manager, or if it's your house, that's you making that call. So you can limit those restrictions for how long they stay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, we can call it short-term guests. Right? These are guests that are staying. You're in the business of hospitality with short-term rentals, right? So we're not really catering to tenants. Great job, Jeff.
So what if they stay, but they pay only for 14 days, and a day later they sign up for another 14 days?
That's why I say you have to do the breakup in between. So. Mm-hmm.
Staying, but they're paying
Yeah, so they're going to pay for 14 days, right? And then you have to do another reservation for 14 days. It can't be consecutive. Yeah, it can't be consecutive, so you have to break it up. No, I wouldn't have them stay. That's what I'm saying. I would actually have them come for the 14 days. If they like the property and they want to go a day and come back, that's the safest way to do it versus you trying to pull a fast one under the table, right? So 14 days. Thank you so much for visiting. Would love if you want to go somewhere for a night, I can refer you, and you can come right on back tomorrow. 14 days, right? That's why you have good affiliate partners. You can even make money off of them if you send them to somewhere else. So you can call me, and I'll place them. We'll split it 50-50, and then I'll give them back to you for 14 days. Okay?